Okay, listen up, this is some heavy stuff, so heads up. This story is just for learning and fun, okay? It's straight from the courtroom where a huge trial about Sean Diddy Combs was going down. It's based on what inner city press said happened. Nobody was ready for what came next. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, that massive movie star and wrestling champ, walked into the courtroom looking totally not himself. Not the tough, smiling guy we know, but sad, nervous, and kinda scared. He wasn't there to hype up a new movie. He was there to spill a big secret. When he took the witness stand, he shared a crazy story about creepy things he says happened when he was starting out in Hollywood. What shocked everyone wasn't just what he went through. It was that Diddy was supposedly the one pulling the strings. The Rock got super emotional, even crying, as he talked about how Diddy controlled him with weird rituals like eating raw monkey brains, being locked in a basement, and doing embarrassing stuff to prove he was loyal. What The Rock said in court made everyone's jaws hit the floor. Nobody saw it coming. There was no big announcement, no news alerts, no whispers in the hall. The courtroom was already buzzing from what stars like Monique, Denzel Washington, and Jamie Foxx had said. But when that side door opened and The Rock walked in, the whole place went dead quiet, like the air got sucked out. This wasn't the happy, confident guy we see on TV or pumping up crowds at wrestling matches. This guy looked worn out, like he was carrying something heavy. He didn't have papers or notes, just a ton of feelings. Even Diddy, sitting with his lawyers, seemed to tense up. His team started whispering fast, clearly caught off guard. The prosecutors swapped quick looks. They'd kept The Rock's name under wraps for a reason. This was gonna shake things up big time. When The Rock got to the stand, he didn't sit right away. He grabbed the railing and looked at the judge. "Can I say something first?" he asked. The judge nodded. He turned to the audience, then the jury, then Diddy. "I don't want to be here, but I have to," he said. "I've been carrying something that's been eating me up for almost 20 years. I'm scared, but I'm more scared of what happens if I don't speak." The room got so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The Rock swore to tell the truth, then sat down. His voice was low and rough, not acting, but like he was holding back big emotions. "You know me as The Rock, the guy who's always strong," he said, "but I'm gonna break now, and I need you all to hear what I'm saying. It's not just about Diddy, it's about how he got away with it for so long." His lips shook as he said, "I was one of them, thinking I had to go along to make it. I did, and it cost me something nobody saw." With that, the whole trial and the way people think about Hollywood flipped. Because The Rock was about to tell a story so wild and humiliating, it'd be all over the news for years. The courtroom leaned in as The Rock started talking about meeting Diddy. It was 2001, and he was switching from wrestling to movies. His film, The Scorpion King, had just dropped, and he was excited but didn't know much about Hollywood. He said, "Diddy seemed like a helper, someone who could open doors. I didn't think twice when he said, 'Let's talk privately.' I thought it was just business." The Rock explained how Diddy invited him to fancy parties at his huge houses in Los Angeles and Miami. At first, they seemed chill. Champagne, handshakes, movie people, and casting folks. Everyone said Diddy was the guy to know. But then things got weird. The parties stopped feeling like networking and started feeling like tests. The Rock said Diddy would say stuff like, "Are you ready for greatness? Would you bleed for it?" The Rock laughed it off, but Diddy stayed dead serious. Then came the favors. Diddy asked The Rock to show up at parties at odd times, like one at 2:13 a.m. in Bel Air. Diddy said that's when real decisions happen. The Rock went, but he was alone for over an hour until some quiet guys in black suits showed up. Nobody talked. It felt like a secret club waiting for their boss. When Diddy walked in, he dimmed the lights and played his voice on a loop through hidden speakers, saying, "Are you worthy? Are you ready? Would you eat what I feed you?" The Rock thought it was some artsy motivational thing. "I told myself it's just Hollywood. These guys are weird," he said, but deep down, I knew something was off. Then came the first big test. Diddy told The Rock to meet him alone at a secret spot outside LA. "I wanted to say no," The Rock told the jury, "but my publicist said this could change your life." He looked serious. "It did change everything, just not how I thought." When The Rock said monkey brain, the courtroom went from shock to totally grossed out. He paused for a long time before going on. "This is the part I've never told anyone," he said. "Not my wife, my friends, or even my therapist." He described being driven blindfolded to a house outside Los Angeles. "I asked the driver where we were, but he just cranked the music," he said. When he got there, two guys took him to a dark room lit by candles with black cloth on the walls and red lanterns on the floor. 5 men in suits sat quietly around a low table. Diddy was at the head, laughing, holding a glass of something that looked like oil. Then a guy in a white robe brought out a tray and uncovered it. It was a metal plate with pieces of raw monkey brain still still steaming, no seasoning, just gross tissue. The Rock looked down, his voice shaking. Diddy said, "Everyone who's made it ate. Everyone who didn't disappeared." Then Diddy told the men to stare at The Rock, saying, "Let him feel the pressure." The Rock said he tried to leave, but the door was locked. I asked if it was a prank or a ritual, even tried laughing, but nobody laughed back, he said. Diddy handed him a spoon and leaned in close, saying, "Hollywood's not about talent, it's about obedience." The Rock started crying on the stand. "I was scared, embarrassed, and alone," he said. With shaky hands, he ate the brain. "I don't remember the taste, just the sound. The room laughing, the chewing, then silence." He sat there for 30 minutes while they watched him finish. When it was done, Diddy clapped and said, "Welcome to level 2. The Rock looked at the jury. "I left feeling like part of me died, not because of what I ate, but what I gave up to do it." The courtroom was dead quiet because this wasn't just about something bad. It was about how far people get pushed to stay silent for fame. The Rock's voice got stronger as he explained what happened next. He said the creepy stuff was like training to control him, not just embarrass him, but make him feel like he had no power. "They started treating me differently, like I was one of them," he said. "But they also tested if I'd stay quiet, if I'd obey." He talked about being invited to what he thought was a work retreat in a desert house. But when he got there, no movie people were there, just other entertainers, some new, some famous, all looking uneasy. The Rock said they were put in rooms with no windows, their phones taken away. Loud music played for hours, and food came at random times. They had to memorize weird scripts, chant about giving in to the power of success, and only speak when told to. "I thought it was some acting class, but then I realized it was about giving up control," he said. "They wanted us to think fear was loyalty, pain was progress." He stopped for a moment. "I didn't speak up because I thought I was crazy, that people would say I was imagining it, but I saw others in the hallway, and we'd give each other this look like we were stuck in the same bad dream." The Rock said after that, he couldn't sleep, felt nervous, and started doubting himself. It wasn't just about acting anymore. He felt like he was being turned into a product, controlled by people behind the scenes. Then The Rock talked about what he called the machine behind it all. After those weird tests, he suddenly got tons of movie offers, but they came with rules. "I got roles I wasn't even supposed to be considered for," he said. "People told me Diddy vouched for you. I didn't ask why. I was just thankful." He remembered a meeting with a big movie boss who didn't talk about his skills, just said, "We hear you play the game. That's what mattered." When The Rock asked about contract details, he was warned his chances could disappear if he didn't stay on good terms with certain people. "I realized these weren't offers, they were orders," he said. He said Diddy had power way beyond music. He had investments, connections, and favors owed to him. The rule was, if Diddy wanted you out, you were done. The Rock said he once skipped one of Diddy's late night parties, and the next week, his agent said a big studio dropped him from a project at the last minute. "That's when I knew silence wasn't just expected, it was required," he said. Even his managers and lawyers knew not to cross certain lines. Nobody wanted to say his name unless it was to praise him, The Rock said. He started feeling like a puppet, controlled not just by studios, but by secret deals built on fear, favors, and secrets. "You learn fast that the people who control Hollywood don't do it openly," he said. "It's all whispers, favors, and debts." With a heavy voice, The Rock talked about the moment he saw too much and decided he couldn't stay in that secret circle. It was at a fancy event in the Hollywood Hills, supposed to be a movie screening and networking night. But when he got there, he knew it wasn't that. The house was dark, with security at every door. Phones were taken, and guests got masks, not for fun, but to hide who they were. It felt like a secret ceremony, not for him, but for someone else. He walked around feeling uneasy. "I saw people I looked up to, actors, musicians, directors, acting in ways that didn't seem like a party," he said. "They looked lost, like they were trying to prove something or hide something." The Rock said he saw a young actor crying in a hallway, holding a drink and shaking. When he asked if the guy was okay, the actor said, "They told me this is what it takes." That night, The Rock left early. "The glamour broke, and I saw the ugly stuff underneath," he said. He couldn't sleep, not just because of what he saw, but because he realized he'd been protected at a cost. "I wasn't invited because they liked me. I was useful because I stayed quiet," he said, choking up. "But seeing that young guy made me remember who I was before the fear, before the shame." He looked at the judge. "That was the night I decided if anyone asked what I saw, I wouldn't lie. And now, in court, he kept that promise." As The Rock sat sat on the stand. Everyone watched, not because he was famous, but because he was telling the truth. He took a deep breath and looked ahead. People ask why we don't speak up, he said. Why actors, musicians, athletes with big platforms stay quiet when we see wrong stuff. He sighed. I'll tell you why. It's scary. He explained that early in his Hollywood days, he thought staying quiet was the way to survive. You're taught not to make waves, not to name names, he said. You think if you speak, you'll lose everything you worked for. His silence wasn't about being guilty. It was about being afraid of losing roles, getting ignored, or being called difficult. It's not always threats, he said. Sometimes it's just watching someone disappear. Roles stop coming, calls stop, contracts vanish. He mentioned other actors who faded away after leaving the secret circle. They weren't crazy or weak. They were tired of pretending, tired of being owned, he said. The Rock said keeping secrets made him anxious and lonely, unsure who to trust. You feel stuck in something you didn't choose, he said. Leaving means losing connections nobody will fix for you. His voice broke, and worst of all, you wonder if you were part of it just by surviving. He nodded to Cassie Ventura's lawyers. Seeing her speak up changed everything. It showed me silence protects the wrong people. As The Rock sat up straighter, looking more confident, he spoke not as the big star, but as a guy changed by what he went through. People think when you're famous, nothing can touch you, he said. But the truth is, the higher you go, the harder it is to speak. He built his brand on being strong and positive, but behind the scenes, he often felt weak. I couldn't talk about what I saw or went through because it didn't fit my image, he said. He stayed quiet for years because speaking seemed too risky, but as more people in Hollywood started sharing their stories, he saw his silence differently. It stopped being about protecting myself, he said. It felt like betraying others. He remembered a young fan saying, "You're the guy who never quits." That stuck with him because, in a way, he had quit on his younger self, his values, and those still stuck in powerful systems. The Rock wiped a tear. "I'm not here to ruin someone," he said. "I'm here because I've been quiet too long, and I don't want people who look up to me to think silence is strength." This wasn't about pointing fingers. It was about taking responsibility. "I want powerful people to know we see you now," he said. "You're not hidden anymore." The courtroom got tense as The Rock turned to face Diddy directly. "I want to say this to you, man to man," he started, keeping his voice calm but strong. "I've carried this too long. You made me think I had to give up who I was to succeed, that I had to lose my values just to get in the room, and I believed it." He shook his head, staring at Diddy. But that wasn't power. That was fear dressed up as influence. He talked about others who dealt with Diddy, the ones too scared to speak, still hurting quietly. "I'm speaking for them now," he said, "for the people told they had no choice, that dreams and dignity can't go together." He paused. "You don't get to control my story anymore." As he stepped off the stand, his last words echoed in the quiet courtroom. "It ends here with the truth." The Rock left, not as a victim or a news story, but as someone who took back his voice, no longer scared or silent, and everyone watching knew Hollywood had just changed. As the bailiff led The Rock away from the stand, a quiet buzz went through the crowd, but before he walked through the courtroom doors, he stopped, not to look at Diddy or talk to reporters, but to face everyone one last time. "I want to say one more thing for the record," he said, his voice strong. "My story isn't just about me. It's not about fame, scandals, or headlines. It's about the people who never get to sit here, the ones who didn't make it to tell their story, the ones still stuck behind the curtain, scared nobody will believe them." He turned a bit, talking not just to the jury or judge, but to the whole world that let silence slide. For years, Hollywood's been built on a lie. That power means it's okay to hurt people, that success comes with a price you can't question. But that lie's falling apart now, not with anger or revenge, but with truth. He took a breath. "I stayed quiet because I thought I'd lose everything, but the truth is, I didn't have anything if I didn't have myself." A few people in the courtroom murmured support. Lawyers looked around, unsure if they should stop him. The judge let him keep going. The Rock nodded. "To anyone out there watching, wondering if it's safe to speak, let this be your sign. The silence is done. We're not scared anymore." With that, he walked out. No cameras chased him. No team tried to twist his words. Just a guy who finally spoke up, and a system that, for the first time in a long time, didn't know how to shut him up. As The Rock disappeared through the courtroom doors, the gallery stayed quiet, like everyone was still processing what just happened. The judge tapped the gavel lightly, trying to bring the room back to order, but you could tell even she was shaken. Diddy's lawyers huddled closer, their faces tight, flipping through papers like they were searching for a way to respond. The prosecutors, meanwhile, sat back, almost calm, like they knew this moment was a game changer. Outside, the world was already starting to buzz. Phones were blowing up with notifications. Even though though no cameras were allowed inside. Word was spreading fast, and social media was probably going wild. The Rock's words hung heavy in the air, especially for the younger folks in the courtroom. Interns, junior lawyers, even some of the reporters who'd snuck in as spectators. They'd grown up watching The Rock as a symbol of strength, the guy who could lift weights, crack jokes, and light up a screen. Seeing him cry, seeing him admit he was scared, hit different. It wasn't just about Diddy anymore. It was about a whole system that made people feel like they had to trade their values for a shot at the top. Some of the jurors looked at each other, their faces hard to read but clearly moved. One older juror, a woman with gray hair, was scribbling notes furiously like she didn't want to miss a single word. The testimony didn't just shake the courtroom, it was starting to ripple out to the industry. The Rock wasn't the only one who'd been through stuff like this. Whispers had been floating around Hollywood for years about secret parties, weird rituals, and people pulling strings behind the scenes. But nobody big had ever said it out loud. Not like this. Not on a witness stand under oath. The Rock's story was like a match lighting up a dark room, showing everyone what was really there. People started wondering who else might speak up next. Would it be another actor? A musician? Maybe even someone outside Hollywood who'd crossed paths with the same kind of power games? Back in the courtroom, the bailiff called for a short break, and the room slowly started to move again. People whispered to each other, some shaking their heads, others looking angry or sad. Diddy stayed seated, staring straight ahead, his face unreadable. His lawyers were still scrambling, but he didn't join their huddle. It was like he knew the weight of what had just happened. The Rock's testimony wasn't just about one bad night or one gross ritual. It was about years of control, fear, and silence that so many had lived through. And now that one of the biggest stars in the world had broken that silence, it felt like the walls of that secret world were starting to crack. Outside, the news trucks were already lining up, reporters pacing and talking into their phones. The Rock didn't stop to talk to them. He didn't need to. His words in that courtroom were louder than any press conference could have been. Fans on social media were probably already posting hashtags, making memes, and arguing about what it all meant. Some would call him brave, others might say he was exaggerating, but one thing was clear: nobody could ignore this. The Rock had taken a sledgehammer to the shiny image of Hollywood, and the pieces were gonna keep falling for a long time.